Hey guys, this is Jason from MainstreamGeek.com, and you're listening to Mainstream Geek, the podcast for February 12th, 2016. Hey guys, what's going on? Before we get started, I just want to put a few things out there. At the time of this recording, which is Thursday, the 11th of February, Mainstream Geek is currently number 29 in iTunes' new and noteworthy section under TV and films. We want to get into that top 15 to 20 to be on the front page of both the desktop version and the iPhone version of iTunes. So if you're listening to this, that means you're at least near an internet connection. So please, it would be super helpful if you could just go to iTunes or the podcast app on your phone and make sure that you're subscribed. Even if you don't listen to it on the app, it would be super helpful if you're subscribed on that app. It won't take up any space on your phone. It'll just add you as a subscriber. Also, while you're there, please make sure that you're leaving me a rating. The higher, the better. Be honest about it. 5 stars is great, but only if you think I deserve it. And along with the rating, leave a few kind words in the text box below that. That helps even more in the rating system. It's really great to be so high in the rankings, and it's really helping me get found, but we could always get a little higher. Like I said before, if you don't like listening on iTunes or the podcasting app for the iPhone, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely understandable. There are a ton of other places that you can listen to us. We've got Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Podbean. I post each episode as a video version on the YouTube channel for the show, so you can listen there if you like. Wherever you're listening, it's just really important, since the show is so new, to make sure that you're leaving feedback on those sites as well. So it's not required, but if you could, please rate and review on whatever site you're listening on to help me get found and attract more listeners. Like the video versions on YouTube and subscribe to that channel if it's something you're into. If it is something you're into and you want the show to stick around, help it grow. Share it with a friend or on social media or in person. With the amount of people that have been downloading, if only a small percentage of those people did all of these things, then the show will grow on its own. Also, just a reminder that my other podcast, Completely Straight, we'll be doing a review of Deadpool tonight, February 12th. That will be available on Completely Straight's feed on iTunes and Stitcher. So if you're interested in hearing that, then go to that channel and subscribe so you can hear it when it's available. Fair warning on that, it will be a spoiler review. So if you don't want anything spoiled for Deadpool, maybe just listen through some of the older episodes of that one until you've seen the movie and then go from there. Alright, I think that's everything I wanted to touch base on. Let me look at my notes here. Yes, so now we can jump into the show. I have got a super sore throat today, guys, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds awful. Now, I know that on Wednesday's episode, I said that today's show would be focused on Cloverfield and everything that's going on with that, and I give my thoughts on Cloverfield. Also, I said I'd be giving you my thoughts on The Walking Dead and where I see that going. And I'm going to get into all of that, but right before I started recording this, listener Izzy Rock from the Gem City podcast and Tales from the Hard Side tweeted at me a bit of news that I felt needed to be addressed. It's the final trailer for Batman v Superman. And it's like I always say about this one, every time I start getting away from it, they pull me back in. The first trailer came out, and it looked like this awesome dark movie that was obviously a superhero movie, but from the looks of the trailer, it looked like it'd be more than that. It looked like an actual film. So they had me locked in. It was my number one comic book movie that I was looking forward to for 2016, even above Civil War. Then they came out with that second trailer, the one with the funky-looking Doomsday at the end of it, and they gave away the entire movie beat for beat. And those beats didn't look all that great to me. So I was still seeing the movie, but I wasn't expecting it to be the great movie that I thought it was going to be before. But then small bits and pieces started coming out about how Batman was going to be a more violent character than he'd been in the past. The movie taking a different spin on Alfred, and the TV spot where Batman runs the Batmobile into Superman. And it put the thought in my head that maybe, even though the movie was still too packed with characters, and it seemed that plot points were weak from my point of view, that maybe the good would outweigh the bad with this movie. But then that weird cross-promotion with Turkish Airlines happened during the Super Bowl, which I'm still confused about if Turkish Airlines is still an actual airline or not. But that's not the point. I was back on the side that it was a weak movie at that point. Even though that bit of marketing didn't have anything to do with what the movie was about, it made me wonder about the decisions that were being made during the marketing of this movie. And if those were the bad decisions they were making, what kind of bad decisions were they making while making the actual movie? But now they've released the final trailer for Batman v Superman, and I've watched it. And those motherfuckers have jerked me back into the other direction. At this point, I'm starting to get whiplash with the whole situation. I don't know what to expect from this movie. On one hand, it's looked like it has a lot of bad parts to it. But on the other hand, the good has looked fucking awesome. The new trailer starts out with this action scene that leads me to believe, at least, what I thought the movie was going to be about has been wrong all along. Until now, I believed that the story was going to be about Batman coming out of retirement to deal with the problem that he views in Superman. But apparently, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but from what I got from this trailer and my one viewing of it, apparently that's not the case at all. It seems like this opening scene to this trailer, to me, feels like the opening scene to the movie, or very close to the opening scene of the movie. At least the introduction of Batman's part in the movie. And it seems like he's still very much in action, working alongside Alfred to take care of a non-Superman related problem. And there's this awesome hardcore fight scene that I know we only got quick cuts from. It's not the entire scene, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what the entire scene is. And I have to say, just from those quick cuts that we got in the trailer, that it seems like this could be the best Batman fight scene that we've ever seen on film. Then there's this little piece with Bruce and Alfred, and they're talking about how he's a little old, he's getting too old for, he's basically saying he's getting too old for this shit. And it lets us know that what we've known for pretty much the entire time that we've been waiting for this movie, that it's an older Batman. You know, actually, maybe I'm doing this like a live stream of consciousness thing, but maybe that original opening scene wasn't showing that he's still in action after all this time. Maybe that's his first coming back into action after a little bit of retirement. Now that I'm thinking about the conversation that he and Alfred had about him being old in the movie. So, but who knows at this point with this movie? I mean, I don't know what's up or down with this one at this point. But anyways, back into the trailer. The rest of it's pretty much a hodgepodge of clips that we've seen in the past. We do get to see a half a second long piece of action from Wonder Woman. We get a line of dialogue from Wonder Woman, which is better than I thought. They didn't give her some crazy accent or make her have an American accent. They let her have her, I think she's Israeli. Gal Gadot is her name. What other movies is she? Oh, she's in the Fast and Furious movies. She plays one of the car people. The car people. Yeah, but that's what else she's from. Fast and Furious. I don't know why, but I feel like a lot of her placement in the film is going to be jokes directed at her placement in the film. I don't know why I'm getting that. I just feel like that's what it's coming off to be at this point. But like I said, I can't tell anything that's going on with this movie. All I can tell you is that this trailer is what they should have released in place of the Doomsday version of the trailer. I did read something after Izzy sent me that, though, that kind of pointed out that the Doomsday trailer was a rush job because they were trying to compete with Captain America Civil War releasing a trailer on Jimmy Kimmel one night. So they wanted to kind of put a dampener on Civil War's day. I don't know if that's true or not. It's just something I read after Izzy had sent me this trailer. But the trailer does end with something that I've been wondering for a while. You see, I've been a bit confused about how what do you call this kind of robot? A mech suit would do any good against a guy like Superman who can rip through a jet like it's nothing. But apparently it does make Batman a match for him because we see Superman throw a punch at Batman and Batman's able to block it and Superman looks all surprised at the fact that the suit allowed him to block it. Now, is this cool? I don't know. It looked cool. I guess it all really just depends on how they explain it, really. If it's just explained away by Batman saying, oh, now I have a suit that makes me as strong as Superman, that won't be satisfying to me. I don't think it would be satisfying to anyone. Hopefully it would be satisfying to anyone, except like the lowest common denominator of people. I did see something that might explain this. I don't know if this is spoiler territory or not, so if you don't want this spoiled, maybe move forward like 30 seconds in the thing. But I was at Target the other day, and I always look at toys while I'm at Target. It's just a little thing I like to do. And there's a Batman toy that has something called Kryptonite gauntlets. So maybe on that suit, his gauntlets are his gloves. For those of you who don't know what gauntlets are, his gloves are made of kryptonite somehow. But that's just a toy, and that could be anything. Who knows? What I do know is that this is shaping up to be more of a Batman movie where Superman is playing the role of his villain than it is a movie about Batman and Superman, which I'm in love with. That means we get to know the character, and we don't have to have another Batman origin movie when they decide to continue the story. Which, Jesus Christ, who knows when that'll be. There's just no more room for movies to be put into the schedule anywhere at this point without juggling things around. Which is a topic that I've touched on before, and I'm sure I'll touch on again, but that's a whole other problem with announcing these crazy schedules that the studios have put out. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the trailer, and after seeing this trailer, I'm going to have to say that my excitement level is up from, what did I say the other day? I think I said I was like around 50% excited for this movie at that point. But now I'd say it's up a little to like around the 75% mark. Who knows? I mean, that's really an arbitrary measurement. There's nothing really to measure against. But I feel like I'm at around 75% now with what seems to me to be the revelation that this is now a Batman movie that happens to have Superman in it and a few other heroes. And they're only in it just to get things going with their DC universe. And they're saying that this is the last one, that this is the last trailer we're getting. Think about that. This movie was announced at, was it Comic-Con or was it New York City Comic-Con? Either way, it was released back in, I think it was 2012, and that's how much time has passed. That's how much time has flown by. It's a month away. And in that month, we're going to get plenty of stuff to pass the time. We've got Deadpool, which is releasing tonight. We've got The Walking Dead that comes back this weekend. And we've got 10 Cloverfield Lane on March 11th. I think Daredevil comes out the following weekend on March 18th. And at that point, the next thing to happen is this movie. That's it. As you're listening to this episode of Mainstream Geek, it marks the day of the perpetual blockbuster. For the foreseeable future, there's going to be a new piece of geek pop culture that is imminent and right up your ass. For better or worse, that's where we are. What do you guys think? Did this trailer make you guys as excited as it made me? Is this movie now something that we can all look forward to? How do you feel about the age of the perpetual blockbuster? Let me know by hitting me up on Twitter and Facebook at Mainstream Geek, or shooting me an email at jason@mainstreamgeek.com. You know all the other ways. With all that being said, though, let's jump into the actual meat of this episode that I promised you on Wednesday. That being 10 Cloverfield Lane. And the story of 10 Cloverfield Lane starts out back in the summer of 2007 with the release of Transformers the movie. Which, quick side note on the Transformers movies, everyone loves to give them a hard time. But I really enjoy them. I don't know why. I mean, I get it, they're long, and like, it's a Michael Bay movie, so it has like bad, I don't want to say black humor, but it's white people doing black humor, and they just don't pull it off very well. But that's just what a Michael Bay movie is. There are also movies about robots beating the shit out of each other, which is, if I'm going to see a movie called Transformers about giant robots fighting each other, I'm not going to walk out of the movie being pissed off that I saw a movie about giant robots kicking the shit out of each other. I have fun with Transformers movies. Now, could they be a bit shorter? Yes. Could I do without the weird spinning cameras that Michael Bay has? Yes. But I'm not looking for less explosions or less robot fighting when I go to a robot fighting movie. So I think that's just a dumb criticism that people have about the movies. They're not great movies, but they're always what you expect them to be. But this isn't about giant robots, so I won't go too far off track with that one. This is about a giant monster, and that monster's name is Clovey. Or Cloverfield. You don't really know what the monster's name is. I think they call him Clovey, though. And at the beginning of the Transformers, there was a trailer for a movie that no one knew anything about. And if I'm not mistaken, it didn't even have an official name at that point. The trailer was for a found footage movie that started out as a home movie for a going away party. And it almost seemed at first like it was going to be a cheesy love story that was just done in the found footage genre. But then out of nowhere, things get all crazy in the trailer, and it turns out that this is a monster movie. You see explosions, all of a sudden, the head of the Statue of Liberty is rolling down the street with claw marks on its face, and it looked like this is going to be a new type of Godzilla movie, filmed in first person. But just as quickly as that was revealed, the trailer ended with the message from J.J. Abrams, and it had the release date of 1/1808, and that was it. That's all we got. No title, no view of the monster, just a shot of the head of the Statue of Liberty landing in the street and a monster roaring, and we were done. And people scrambled to find out more information what this movie was. If you remember back to 2007, J.J. Abrams was also involved in Lost, the TV show, which had that huge ARG. And for those of you who don't know what an ARG is, It's an alternate reality game or an augmented reality game, depending on who you ask. But what an alternate reality game is it's like meta information that's out in the world that's not necessarily in the movie, but it gives you a sense of what's happening in the background of the movie without the movie having to do so through exposition. Not knowing about the ARG doesn't take anything away from your enjoyment of the movie, but knowing about the ARG can increase your enjoyment of the movie and your feeling of participation in the movie, which is something that Cloverfield pulled off in spades. But when people scrambled to the internet, not only did they find more, but they found a shitload more. There were fake companies with fake websites that linked to fake backstories for those companies, to fake CEOs that had fake news stories about them. There were YouTube videos of newscasts and materials that would lead to plot points in the movie. There were products put in stores like this thing called Slusho that was this exclusive deal with 7-Eleven that was basically a spin-off of Slurpee, but had something to do with the plot of the movie and where the monster comes from. It was everywhere, but it was super subtle and really made to seem as if it was a real world situation. And if you wanted to know about the backstory of this movie, you had to search for it, or else you could walk into 7-Eleven and see a Slusho, or Slusho machine, I guess. I never saw one myself in real life, but I know they existed. But you could walk into 7-Eleven and see a Slusho machine and not have any idea that it had anything to do with the movie Cloverfield, which I'm not clear on if it even had a name up until right before the release. I think it was just advertised as 1/1808. It was just advertised with the release date and that it was a monster movie at that point. And the option for your involvement was the beautiful thing about this movie and the way that it was executed. If you wanted to have a completely immersive experience, you could have it. And they had enough for you to be completely immersed. Some people spent I'm sure people lost their jobs over how much time they spent on this ARG. But they did it in a way that people who didn't participate in the ARG, they didn't have to know anything from the ARG to know what was going on. It's not like a Marvel movie to where you need to know that this happened with Thor to enjoy what's going to happen in Infinity War. They did it to where everyone could enjoy on their own level, which was great. And the movie was awesome, by the way. It's rare that you get a found footage film that's great, and this was a great found footage film. But the movie came and went with an ending that led many to believe that there would be a sequel. And people continued searching, wondering, and waiting, and hoping for the sequel, but nothing came. Fast forward 8 years, and everyone wakes up this past January with a strange new trailer that appeared overnight for a movie with this creepy vibe that had 3 people locked in an underground bunker. And at the end of the movie, the words 10 Cloverfield Lane appeared on screen, and it had a release date of March 11th. Only 2 months away from the first word we ever had that this movie existed. And the internet lost its mind. Everything about this movie's announcement was strange. How could a movie that had a following the size of Cloverfield and starring people like John Goodman and what's the chick's name in it? Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I think. She was in Scott Pilgrim. Tell me if I'm wrong on that one, but I think it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. How could a movie with those people in it and the size of Cloverfield be made in this day and age without there being a peep out there about it? How many movie blogs do you know about that love to break news? And then J.J. Abrams made this strange quote the morning it was released about how this movie is a blood relative of the original. What did that mean? How is a movie a blood relative of it? This led people to believe that maybe this wasn't a Cloverfield movie directly, but instead the name Cloverfield has to do with, it's a branding for a anthology series. So like Cloverfield 1 was about a monster in the city, and Cloverfield 2 was about a monster and a man he's just this creepy guy who has a bunker and he's keeping people in it, which the poster kind of points to that maybe being right, because I think the poster says something like monsters come in all forms, I think that's what it says, monsters come in all forms. So was this like the second film in an anthology series of films about different types of monsters? Was John Goodman the Clovey of this movie? Who knows? And those two things aside, nothing made sense about how not only was this movie coming, but we were getting it in 2 months. The bare minimum amount of time to get the marketing out there. When I say the bare minimum, I mean the bare minimum. Big movies usually have about 6 to 8 months lead time to start marketing a movie. So by giving yourself 2 months, you're really hoping that things just fall into place for you. So the internet went to work. Subreddits were started to collaborate on finding clues within the trailer and figure out how this movie was made. It turns out that this movie wasn't a secret at all, actually. It was just a hidden production that went by the title Valencia while being made to keep it hidden until they were ready to release the information. It had fake writers on IMDb, a fake director for the longest time. It was shelved on purpose to misdirect crews. Crews were segmented and divided so not all members would know exactly what they were filming. The level of secrecy on this one was crazy. So much so that here we are a month later, and we still don't have any answers to any of the questions that we brought up. To further the confusion of what's going on, there's a new online scavenger hunt, just like there was for the first one, that people have stumbled upon that I don't have time to go into on this because it's so deep. But if you want to visit the 10 Cloverfield Lane subreddit, that's /r/10 Cloverfield Lane, you can find out everything you need to know and contribute if you feel like it. But the basic rundown of the ARG at this point for 10 Cloverfield Lane is this. There is a soda company called Swamp Pop that seems to have been created about 6 years ago just to be integrated into the movie's ARG. The site has a fallout shelter supply of its product for $4,813, which coincidentally is the, if you've seen the trailer, there's a part with a jukebox, and that's the number that he puts into the jukebox to select a song. But that is the fallout shelter supply of Swamp Pop is currently sold out because of recent events on the eastern seaboard, i.e. where the original Cloverfield took place. The site for Tagaratu, the fake online company that was part of the original movie's ARG, is back online, and you can email them and it will respond to you with an auto reply with cryptic messages that imply that something more has gone wrong than what happened in the first movie. The company now has subsidiaries where John Goodman's character is listed as Employee of the Month. What else is there? There's a site called Fun and Pretty Things where if you can find the right steps to access the logon screen, which I've done, you can read a letter that was posted on the site in a hidden place from John Goodman to his daughter, urging her to come to the fallout shelter, saying that implying that he knows what's going on with the monster or whatever's going on in his corner of the Cloverfield universe. And now there's this chat that people are stuck on. They haven't found a way to break into it just yet, but they're working on it. And the clue they're looking for is you get into the site and it starts to chat up, and you have to have a password, and that password is what John Goodman got for his daughter in the movie for her 13th birthday. So people are guessing like crazy. There's a whole thread on the subreddit that you can go through to make sure you're not repeating an attempt. But the mythology that they're building around this movie is insane, and no one knows how deep it goes. That's why this movie is such a big deal. This is a viral marketing campaign done right. Not that stupid Turkish Airlines / Batman v Superman Super Bowl spot. Viral marketing should be something that's supplemental to a movie-going experience because 90% of your audience won't participate in it and won't know anything about it. So viral marketing, if you're going to use it, should be subtle. And this movie is pulling it off on point, just like the original did. Now, whether or not it holds up like the original did, we won't know until March 11th when the movie comes out. It could turn out to be a huge horse turd, and there were these rumors about how this movie was actually just a failed movie that they didn't know how to finish. So they just said, hey, let's just throw Cloverfield on there and see if it makes it a little more successful so we can recoup our money that we spent on it. But I don't think that's the case with this one. With how heavily dependent this movie is on internet interaction, Paramount has to know that all of this, creating the fake soda company, the online game, paying $5 million for the Super Bowl commercial when the movie is rumored to have cost $5 million to make, down to naming the movie Cloverfield in a way, would be ruined in one night when the movie is released. Due to Twitter and Facebook and things like that, everyone would know that this isn't a Cloverfield movie right away, and not only would the box office for this movie be ruined, but any hopes of making a Cloverfield revival in the future, which people obviously want, and the studio is now well aware of this, and studios love a profitable franchise that they don't have to pay for. So all of that would be wasted and ruined if this was nothing to do with the original Cloverfield movie, or at least didn't have a good reason to be called Cloverfield. It would cause Cloverfield to be a useless property at that point. So I don't think that that's the case. What do you guys think, though? Do you think that this movie is a continuation of the story? One thing that kind of throws me from thinking that this is a continuation and that this is, in fact, like an anthology film is the fact that in the trailer, they use modern iPhones. And the fact that there seems to be a mystery as to what's outside the bunker really makes me think that the people inside are oblivious to what's going on in the world for the past 8 years, if that's the case. And how would you be oblivious to a monster being outside? Because having a modern iPhone implies that time went on after the monster attack. And I just don't see somebody being oblivious to a monster attack and destroying New York City. I also don't see a production that was this carefully put together overlooking things like what phones would exist. So that throws me a bit. So I'm actually kind of, because of that, part of my brain kind of leans toward that this isn't a continuation of the story, that it is an anthology film. Also, let me know if you're following the online game. I would love to hear from people who are following the online game. And if I told anything wrong about the online game, please correct me. I would love to hear from you. Contact me on Facebook and Twitter at Mainstream Geek, or email me at jason@mainstreamgeek.com. Now, I think I am running a little longer than I wanted to go for a Friday episode. I had the show notes written up before the Batman v Superman trailer was released, so that kind of threw my plans a little. But I do want to touch really quickly on The Walking Dead, since it starts this weekend, and I'll likely be talking about it next week, probably on Wednesday. So I'm just going to speed it up a little bit and walk really quickly through where I am with The Walking Dead as a viewer at this point, and we'll take it from there. Now, for me, as a lover of good, long-form fiction, shows like The Walking Dead or Breaking Bad, and things like that, where it's a serialized story being told, I think The Walking Dead has always had the best potential of any show out there. It had a great 6-episode first season, which by most people's accounts was perfect. But I want to emphasize the word, what did I say? I said potential. Because as great as I feel like it could be, sometimes I don't feel like the people who run the show know completely what they're doing. It seems like they have an idea of what they want to do every season, but they just don't have a map as to how to get there while still telling the story to fill a 16-episode year. We see it all the time in this show. A great start to the season, and then we get like a 5-episode lull that they fill with cliffhangers that never pay off. It almost feels like they know what will keep people around, but they aren't skilled enough to tell that story in a way that's conducive to the long-form series of storytelling. It also feels to me like they're too concerned with introducing new characters and having them as main characters when we don't have enough time to devote to characters that already exist in the show. Every time they introduce a new character, my first thought is always that they're introducing them just so that they can have a dramatic death at some point in the season. But when that turns into your shtick, it's no longer a dramatic death. Every new character essentially becomes a red shirt from Star Trek. Everyone knows they're going to die, and that's because the writers of the show seemingly refuse to kill any of the original main characters. Now, some of them, I wouldn't call them safe, but we all know that Rick isn't going to die. We all know that Carl isn't going to die. We all know that it's proven that Glenn isn't going to die. They could kill, I guess, Maggie, but I feel like they probably wouldn't, because they would be doing the killing the pregnant lady again. They've already done that. So I think they've killed off most of the main original cast that they're going to kill off at this point. And they're just not, they don't have the balls to keep doing that because they're not good enough writers to develop new characters all over again. And I get it. It's hard to kill staples of a show that has become so successful. Not only for yourself, but I'm sure there's pressure from the network to keep them around. Networks like to keep the moneymakers around, and networks are short-sighted in the way that they think, this is working, we can't screw this up at this point. And this show just bleeds network intervention with every episode I watch. You can taste how tight the wallet is in the show, and you can taste the executives on the set saying, you know what, we need to do this instead of that because I think it would be cooler if we did that instead of this. And there's no reason for that because it's the #1 rated show on TV. This show brings in an estimated, I think it's $22 million per episode, if I'm not wrong about that. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere there. I think with advertising revenues and cable subscription and stuff like that, they bring in $22 million per episode of The Walking Dead. And it only costs $1.5 million per episode to make. Again, not sure of those figures, but I'm pretty sure of those figures. If you know the actual figures, email me and I'll correct myself on the next episode. So the lack of action that occurs during a season and the stationary plots don't seem to make sense. They're just an extreme amount of problems I have with the show. But when it comes down to it, I'm hopeful for it, so I keep watching. You see, I complain about a lot of things, but only because I want them to be good. My wife watches, on Netflix, she watches, what is this stupid fucking show she watches? She watches The Gilmore Girls. And I think since it's been on, she has watched it through, and she is currently rewatching it just for something to, as background noise. But I hate that show. I also don't have an opinion on that show because I don't care if it's good or bad. It's not for me and not everything has to be for me. I know she loves it, and I'm happy for her that she has something that she loves as much as I love Star Wars or Marvel movies. So I'm not pointing out the things that I find wrong with that show because it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's good. I'm not going to watch it. That's why I point out the flaws I find in movies like Batman v Superman or the show The Walking Dead or anything that I might point out flaws in. It's not from a place of me just hating on everything. It's actually because I love a lot of things. I just want them to be good so they can continue to let me love them. I want them to change. These are my honest opinions about what I would like to see happen on the show. I just know the show, though, so I'm pessimistic towards it. For instance, I have it in my head, and this is just conjecture, that Sunday night, when it premieres, that we're not going to see how they made their escape from the end of the episode that left off at the mid-season finale. I won't spoil it for those of you who aren't quite caught up yet, but instead we're going to get basically them rehashing how they got out with maybe some small flashbacks so they can more quickly get to the time-wasting episodes until the actual season finale. That just bothers me. But I will be watching the show, and I will be talking about the show as long as it's worth talking about. But we have gone a little longer than I intended, and my throat is raw right now. So those are all my thoughts on The Walking Dead. That's my coverage of Cloverfield, and that is my coverage of Batman v Superman, the final trailer. If you have any thoughts on any of these things, please find me on Twitter and Facebook at Mainstream Geek, or email me at jason@mainstreamgeek.com. Please make sure that you are subscribed to my feed on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, so you can get all the episodes as soon as they come out. Once you've subscribed, if you wouldn't mind leaving me a little love in the form of a rating and review, that would be very much appreciated. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we are currently at number 29, I think I said, and that is based on your subscriptions, your ratings, your reviews. So leaving those helps me get found and helps other people discover my semi-awesome content and opinions. A little note about the show schedule for next week. We're going to see Deadpool tonight and podcasting about it right after on my other show, Completely Straight, if you want to check that out. But my wife and I also have a busy day on Saturday, and Sunday is Valentine's Day, so I don't think my wife would appreciate me locking myself in the basement for the day to record a podcast. So when it comes to this coming week, there may only be new shows on Wednesday and Friday, unless I can squeeze one in somewhere this weekend, but that's looking unlikely at this point. So if that's the case, I apologize in advance, but sometimes life happens and you can't schedule around that. But if you just can't do without my lovely voice in the meantime, you can get more of my content at any of the places I mentioned before, or by visiting CompletelyStraight.com and checking out our back catalog of episodes there. Remember, go to my YouTube page, subscribe on there, like some videos, help me out in that way. So until Monday or Wednesday, whichever comes first, keep it geeky!